Hello and welcome. Today I have some new products from roseinc, which is Rosie Huntington Whiteley's new beauty brand. When I saw what she was releasing and that she had a makeup line coming out, I was pretty excited because Rosie is one of those people, kind of like Victoria Beckham, where although it's a celebrity makeup line, I know that Rosie is really into makeup. I've been seeing her on Lisa Eldridge's channel over the years, and she has her own YouTube channel, and she just seems to really love makeup and be quite knowledgeable about makeup, and she knows what she likes and she knows what works. So I was pretty optimistic about her launching a beauty line, and I really wanted to try it out. So I've got 3 of the new blush shades here. They're cream blushes, and I have the concealer as well. So I'm gonna show you all of that and show myself applying it and share my thoughts on it. I also have one of the lip crayons coming to me in the mail. It was released a day or 2 after the other products on Sephora, so I ended up placing a separate order for the shade that I wanted of that. So stay tuned for a video, hopefully this week or next week, where I'm gonna review and apply the lip product as well. And in that video, I'll also just follow up on all of these products that I'm showing you today, because this is just a first impressions today. So anyway, if you'd like to see all of that, just keep on watching. All right, so I wanted to start with the concealer. I have a layer of foundation on. I wanted to use a pretty light coverage foundation today, so I just used the Chantecaille Future Skin, the one in a pot. And that was a few hours ago that I applied that. And now I'm ready to go in with concealer. So this is the lightest shade of the range of concealers. It's the shade LX010, and it's described as being for fair skin tones with neutral undertones. I thought that would be good, and the shade looks to be pretty good. The component is plastic, but it's a nice, fairly weighted plastic, and it has this nice matte finish on it, and I like it's just kind of a different shape from what we normally see in concealers. The brand says it's a does-it-all concealer that brightens, blurs, and contours while nourishing the skin, and this long-wearing liquid formula minimizes the looks of fine lines, redness, and discoloration for an even complexion that glows. It's enriched with hydrating squalane, protective vitamin E, and color-corrective botanicals, and it delivers comfortable wear with buildable coverage. So that all sounded really good to me, and I'm excited to try it. So I'm just going to take it right from the doe foot into my normal concealing areas and anywhere I want to just add a little bit of coverage. I'm using my Real Techniques setting brush for this. So right off the bat, this feels like a bit of a thicker formula than I was expecting. I'm so used to that Lancome Tanti Doll concealer that's so really lightweight and kind of thin. This is more of your typical kind of creamy concealer. And it has quite a lot of coverage, I find, actually. Again, it's a little bit more coverage than I was expecting. There's how it looks blended in with a brush. I want to kind of take a little bit of the product off because it did apply more heavily than I expected. I'm just taking my damp sponge here, and I'm just kind of gonna go over and just blend it in a little bit better and kind of take off any excess that might be on the skin. I do really like the way it looks though. It has a beautiful dewy, radiant finish. You can see that. And it covers really nicely. I think in the future I'll just know to use even less of it, and just because it blends really well and it covers a lot of area. In the future I'll just use a little bit less, and then I probably won't have to do this step with the sponge. And it seems to be covering my blemishes pretty well. I've got a couple of pimples down there and a little bit of irritation and redness on my chin, and it's doing a pretty nice job of just sort of covering that over. I'm gonna try adding a tiny bit more on this little spot right there, so you can see it's just the tiniest little bit. All right, so here it is, all nice and blended. This is a proper medium coverage. It's almost like medium leaning to full in my mind. It's quite a high coverage, but I think in the future it's kind of hard to get a very small amount off of this, which is what I'm generally wanting now that I know how pigmented and creamy it is. So I think in the future it'll probably be best to just kind of put that on the back of my hand and work from there so that I can get better control over the amount of concealer that I'm using. So I want to do just a little bit of powder. I want to powder my chin and my T-zone. So I'm going to do that with the Chanel Les Beiges powder, and then I'll be back and we can talk about the blushes and try those out. All right, I put a little bit of powder on and I used a little bit of bronzer contour just along my chin and down my nose, but I didn't put any on my cheeks so that we can really see the full impact of the blushes. So I have 3 of the blush shades. I have Heliotrope, Anemone, and Ophelia. I just want to swatch them before I apply them to my face, but I want to show you how beautiful they look in the pan. That one's Ophelia. This looks so beautiful and the color is really so vibrant and pretty. This one is Heliotrope. This is Anemone. These blushes are refillable as well. You can see there's that hole that you can poke through to put the refill in, and the refills are available for sale already now as well. So even if you didn't want the components and you just wanted to pop them in a little palette, you could do that with the refills already. So let's do some swatches. Oh, the texture, it's really soft. It is a very hot day here today, and these were in the mailbox, so I'm sure that has affected the texture. This is probably as soft and balmy as they're going to get. I expect when it's a little bit cooler, they'll feel a little bit harder to the touch. This one is Anemone, which is just described as a coral. This one here is Ophelia, which is described as a true pink. And then this one here is Heliotrope, which is described as an apricot. So there are the 3 shades that I have: Heliotrope, Ophelia, and Anemone. And I just popped one of them out so I could make sure that they're a magnetic refill. They are magnetic, and they even have the shade name on the back, which is really nice and very easy to just pop out of the component and pop right back in. I'm going to start with Heliotrope. I'm using this Westman Atelier brush. This is I think it's the powder brush from Westman Atelier, but I really love it for cream products. So I'm just going to go tap in there. I'm going to guess that this is very pigmented as well. That's what it seems like from feeling it in the pan and from swatching it. So I'm just trying to take a pretty light amount and just kind of tap and blend onto the cheek. It's an interesting texture. It's different from other cream blushes that I have. It has less of a slip. It's almost like, it's not sticky, but it just has a sort of thicker quality to it. And it is like, it's just a little bit tacky, but not in a bad way. I think the shades in this range are just beautiful. These 3 that I got were the ones that appealed to me the most, but the other 3 shades looked really stunning too. They have such vibrancy to them, but they have nuance as well, which I really appreciate in colors for blush or lipstick, really any kind of makeup. Just adds a little bit of sophistication. The way they work with the undertones, and they have a way of balancing the colors. So that's what Heliotrope looks like. That's the apricot shade. All right, so I'm wiping off my brush on this little towel, and I'm gonna go into Ophelia on my other cheek. And I will do a cheek swatch of the other shade as well, but I'll start with Ophelia. So this one is even more pigmented, so I'm just going to tap off a little bit onto my towel before I try to blend it more. And the brand says that you can either use your fingers or a brush with these. I always prefer to use a brush if I can. I just feel that I have more control over the placement, and I don't really love getting makeup on my fingers and so on, so a brush for me is my preferred method. Gonna try to put this on pretty strong just so we can really see the differences in the colors here. I can clearly see the difference between these two colors. This one is much more subtle and subdued, and this one really does have a true pink quality to it, a really nice rosy flush. So this one's Ophelia and this one's Heliotrope. Now I'm going to just try to wipe off a little bit of that and then reapply a little bit of the concealer on my cheek, and then come back and we can put Anemone on this cheek. All right, so I've got a nice canvas for this cheek. It was very easy to cover that up with this concealer. I just want to let it sort of sink in a little bit. And while I'm doing that, I wanted to try one of these on my lips. So I think maybe I'll try the Ophelia shade on my lips. Oh, it's really, really bright and pretty. I just had a little bit of a clear balm on my lips before and a touch of the Makeup Forever Wherever Walnut around the edges, but I think it had mostly kind of come off by the time I put this on. So that's what Ophelia looks like on the lips. Really pretty. I love the vibrancy of it, and it feels comfortable. It just feels like a sort of thicker, creamy lipstick, but in a very light layer. I want to try a little bit of the coral color of Anemone on the lips, mixed with that other one. So what they say about these blushes, they're ideal for dull and dry skin. And they say a hydrating cream that brightens and blurs with a radiant flush of color. This pigment-rich formula contains a spectrum of skincare ingredients that improve skin health with each use. Hydrating squalene, protective vitamin E, and shine-minimizing marine ferment extract. Long-wearing and buildable, it melts into the skin for a smooth complexion that glows. So now I'm ready to put Anemone on my cheeks. Again, I've wiped off the brush. I know it has pigment on it, but all the product has been wiped off. And I'm just going into that shade. And again, I'm not going to work too hard to blend this because I want to be able to really compare the colors. That's really the purpose of doing these cheek swatches, is to compare the colors of each of the blushes. All right, so there's what Anemone looks like compared to Ophelia. All right, so I'm gonna try to even things out a little bit on my cheeks, and I'll come back and just round up my thoughts on everything. All right, I'm back. What I did was I put Heliotrope all over my cheeks and then just topped up on the apples a little bit with Anemone. So this is just a first impressions. So I am going to follow up in a future video when I get that lip product. I'm going to follow up, and then I'll just share my more fully formed thoughts on all of these products. But so far, so good. Again, I think the concealer is quite richly pigmented and a very creamy consistency. And I'm thinking this might be actually a concealer that I prefer applying with a sponge to a brush, because the sponge just has that ability to really sort of thin it out and make sure that it's not built up too much or that there's not too much pigment in any one area. I've really enjoyed when I was recovering over my cheeks each time I used the sponge, and it worked really quickly and easily and just spread the product out really beautifully. I love the finish of it. I love how dewy it is, and I think it works well with the blush. You can see with the blush on top of the concealer, which I'd put all over my cheeks, it's a beautiful, dewy, fresh finish. I think the shades of the blush are really special, and I think if I were to get more shades, I'd be quite happy just getting the refills and putting them in a magnetic palette. The packaging isn't all that special to me. It's pretty, I like this sort of muted tone of it, but it's just a plastic component, although the mirror is very nice, and I really do appreciate that it has the refillable aspect to it. I think the colors, at least the ones that I got, they're just really very flattering. The apricot and coral shades, which are the ones that are on my cheeks right now, sometimes those types of shades, I've mentioned this before, sometimes they can go quite orange on my skin, but I think they have stayed true to color and they just look really beautiful and fresh. And there's something very, very flattering about each one of these 3 tones that I got today. And I think that because they're so pigmented and they're, you know, quite vibrant colors, I think they're going to work on a really wide range of skin tones, which is great. The texture of them is interesting. I've discussed that already. It's just a bit of a thicker, I want to come up with a better word than sticky, but it's a tackier kind of formula. But again, not in a bad way. It still feels really comfortable and not heavy on the skin. And I love that dewy finish that it has. And I really love how it works on the lips too. I'll be interested to see how well this wears, but I think, again, the colors are just so flattering and beautiful that they work really nicely on the lips, and the formula feels really good on the lips too. Stay tuned for a video coming up, hopefully this week or next week, with the lip product that I ordered. And as I mentioned, I'll just follow up on everything in that video as well. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions or comments below. I always love to see those. And if you'd like to see more from me and you haven't subscribed to my channel already, I'd really love for you to do so. Thanks again so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in my next video.